of mechanical engineering in it.
Yep.
And so I built him this locomotive, and that took me 2 years basically to do because I was only doing it part-time. But her dad and I, well, that's not part of the story. I've got way too much to tell you. Okay. But Walt was one of the finest gentlemen you could ever hope to meet. And I don't mean that in any way other than as pure truth. He used to come over and he would sit and watch us. He never was much for playing with the machines because he was not, he was interested in mechanical. He was not a doer of mechanical things. And so, but when I would turn something on the lathe or put something in the mill, he was always asking me a dozen questions about this, and why do you set this up, and how do you know you're going to turn the mill the right way so that it doesn't jump, or, you know, it just keep. So he was really interested in everything. But the biggest thing that affected Cheryl and me is we had a little daughter who had multiple birth defects. And our doctors were telling us that she would die if we kept her there in Los Angeles, or we had to get a full air conditioning system in our home, which we couldn't afford at that time. And Walt heard about this, and unbeknownst to us, one day, 2 or 3 days from then, an air conditioning truck pulls up outside, and they were there, and they said, "We're here from Disney Studios, and we've got a complete unit to put in your house." And that was just from Walt. He never even expected a thank you. He was that kind of a good-hearted man. Like I say, I've got so many stories I could tell you about him, but that really affected us in a wonderful way. So I'm proud to say that any of the negatives that people say about him, talking about being a neo-Nazi and all that kind of stupid stuff, was not Walt Disney. He was a good, solid man in every respect. And he always would do more than he said he would do. He just was that man. So anybody that has any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer. But
yeah. Disneyland was opened July 16th, 1955, a month before I was born. That's why I remember. And you know, so the early 60s, it was still a new concept. You know, at that time, right?
Yeah, it so happened that I was there the day it opened.
You were?
Yeah, we lived in Illinois at that time, but my uncle had stayed in California after World War II, and so we came out every year to visit. And he had 2 boys, and they got to go to Disney, and as part of the Anaheim school children, the day before it opened. And then we were there, and then we all went again on the day it opened. And that was the first time I saw Walt in person, but he was riding along and waving at everybody, so it wasn't like an introduction or anything like that.
Absolutely.
But after we did get to know him, and I started doing a lot of stuff, he brought over the birds from the tiki room that go click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. He wanted them to animate them. So her dad and I sat up on a bench and figured out little various activations that we could do for it, all pneumatic. So it was all air driven. That's why they go click, click, click. They don't have this surge of oil. And but he liked that, so that got built. And we worked on Abe Lincoln, and we worked on him, and then they wanted to hurry up and get it open because they were running behind schedule, so they went ahead and put him up, and then when he went to get up, he was kind of like... And so we worked after that. We pulled him apart and got him to where he actually stood up like a person. But
I remember that one of his great moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah.
That was a cool one.
And oh geez.
Cheryl, how did your dad
become friends with Walt? Do you
My
recall?
dad got to be friends with everyone. If they walked and talked, he introduced himself and talked along with them. He was a great guy, and he knew that Disney was interested in certain things. And he was interested in a lot of the same things. So he basically just introduced himself, and there was a click.
Wow.
Absolute click.
Yeah, her dad and Walt and a couple other fellows started the Los Angeles Live Steam Club, which still exists in Griffith Park, and they still run miniature steam locomotives around that place.
And don't build one, because you'll be, if you're married or have I was a widow for 8 years.
Were you married to a Cheryl?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, we-
I had to be perfect.
It's an interesting way, because there is a little bit of parallel, and then I'll open it up. Anybody has questions for you? You know, Walt was kind of a visionary in
Oh,
his
very
sense.
much.
He would look
Oh.
down the road and maybe not a personal innovator, but he knew if he wanted this idea, okay, who do I need to get to operationalize it or make it happen?
Yeah, well, he actually was quite a visionary for sure, and he would think about things and dream about things. He had a lot of ideas come to him in his dreams, and he would then want to start trying to implement those. And if he ran across somebody in business or on the street, for that matter, if he thought that person that adds something to this idea I've got, and he'd talk to the person and maybe hire him or get them to come and do a contract work for a little while or something, and work with some of the other fellows that he had there that he thought were synergistic. So he was way, way, way ahead of his time as far as how he pulled people together and got activities going.
After he passed away, which was, what was it, 64, 65, I believe, somewhere in there.
67.
Maybe it's a little later. I knew he
67.
died before the Disney World came online,
Yeah,
unfortunately, in
yeah.
Florida. And it seemed like the Disney brand, what he created, was certainly able to move forward. I guess it was his cousin Roy, and there was a lot of other key players there to keep it going. From your view, after Walt passed away, how did that impact either your association with Disney, or perhaps it didn't, or maybe they didn't miss a beat? I'm just curious about that.
Well,